He's not going to go around threatening Guam, and he's not going to threaten the United States, and he's not going to threaten Japan, and he's not going to threaten South Korea.
Poor Guam now finds itself in the middle of a big game of chicken between these two men. So he's really setting himself up for a serious situation next week. So if missiles are fired near the waters off Guam, the president has to respond very dramatically.
Well, that's what he said. It's interesting because people, even General Jack Keane the other day when he was on this show, he said that he wishes he could give the president a do-over on the fire and fury statement. But the president's instincts are always slightly different. And he's speaking to people in America who are like, what? I like strength. Like when President Bush said, bring it on, bring him on, and dead or alive, and the media went, oh my gosh, he's a warmonger. I remember personally just saying, I'm for that.
Yeah. Because
it makes sense to me. I do think on the Guam piece, it is kind of interesting. Is it Guam because Kim Jong-un does not have the capability to send a missile anywhere else?
I believe that.
But why would you waste an opportunity on Guam if you don't know if President Trump's going to act? Why would you do that? I think that this calculation is sort of strange, but one of the experts we had on the story, Dennis Wilder, he believes that Kim Jong-un has given us his playbook, and he is absolutely going to run it. He expects there to be an attack.
So if missiles are fired off the coast of Guam, Kimberly, I think it's about 17 minutes before they hit their target. So the United States has to act very decisively. What would be the appropriate response?
Well, I think that the problem is if you even let it go to that point, we've waited too long, right? If you're going to try to intercept at that point of like maximum velocity from North Korea, then we're already operating at a disadvantage, right? Because then we have very limited options available to try to avert disaster. And I think what President Trump is talking about is something that would, you know, I guess be a precursor to that would preempt it and wouldn't allow it to get to that situation where the advantage is with North Korea. I don't think he's ever going to give up the advantage as it relates to the United States and our positioning. And that's why I think he's doubling down on this. Everyone was upset about fire and fury. Well, he's like, listen, I'm going to back the words up. And he said, in fact, maybe that wasn't strong enough. And that's his style.
If I could just add one other thing. The United States doesn't necessarily have to act. Japan and South Korea are both mobilizing, and they would be closer and able to.
Better tactical advantage.
Mo, how do you feel about the president's strong rhetoric with regards to North Korea?
Look, first, I give him a tremendous amount of credit for the early diplomatic moves, right? The fact that he was able to get a 15-0 Security Council resolution, that was a huge diplomatic win for the United States and a huge diplomatic win for him personally. I'm a little nervous about some of the rhetoric now. And, you know, thinking back to my old international relations classes and back when I was in college, one of the things that really stuck with me is the rational actor theory, that when it comes to international relations, it's like one big chess game. Every move you make is predicated on the notion that the other side is going to react rationally. I think that can be said about almost any country in the world except for North Korea. He thinks he may be speaking a language that the North Korean dictator can understand, but there's no telling how this guy interprets this, right? He may not internalize it the way you or I as rational actors or any other foreign head of state would do it. And so that makes me a little nervous. We are dealing with an incredibly unpredictable, volatile person who now has nukes. It's tricky, and I'm not sure that doubling down and tripling down is the way to turn the corner.
So you believe this guy we're seeing on the screen might have a death wish and doesn't care about survival. What do you think about the Hermit Kingdom, Greg Gutfeld?
I think it's a great name for a band. You know what? I think Donald Trump, it's refreshing rhetoric. I think it's important. I disagree with Mo. I think it's important to speak their language because what you're seeing is negotiation and you're seeing bluffing. You wonder why he chose Guam, because it's a bluff. I believe it's a bluff, and this is where I'm going to say something completely different that people may get angry about, but there is room for sympathy for North Korea, and here's why. The Korean War ended in a divorce. South Korea got the greatest parents ever, the United States. We loved them, we protected them, we cared for them. The consequences, the results, a massively successful economy. South Korea had a great parent. What parent did North Korea get? Commies. China and the USSR, they couldn't afford to take care of them. They didn't want to take care of them. They didn't clothe them. They didn't feed them. They were terrible parents. And the reason why they were terrible parents is they were scared of North Korea becoming successful, so they treated them like crap. So what you have now is you have a child. North Korea is essentially a child that has been scarred. And what does a child do? Its rational way of thinking is survivalism. And a scarred child survives through bluffing. It acts tough because it knows that if it doesn't act tough, it's going to get ruined. So the solution, when you think about it, is how do you help this child that has been screwed by terrible parents for 40 years? A child that smartly realizes that it must bluff its way to survival. A child that feels that it needs nuclear power or nuclear weapons to survive. And who are we to say no? And I'm beginning to think that who are we to say no if you have been treated like crap for so long? I don't know. So I think there's a way to negotiate with these guys if you understand that for the past 4 decades, everybody's gotten great stuff, but they've been stagnant in a permanent mess forever, essentially a mole that hasn't ever gone malignant, but has promised to go malignant.
Is that?
Because I think they realize this is their way. Like, whenever things get bad, they act up. And it's their way of defending themselves. It's kind of, it's a pathetic, sad world.
Kim Jong-un, I wouldn't say it's the people of North Korea.
Well, absolutely.
Because they are his victims.
Yes, exactly. And
so this is about somebody who is just wayward and trying to, you know, it's a narcissist.
I think it's the only way they know.
Trying to do
it's the only way that family knows how to do this.
So how do you give this guy
down with them.
an off-ramp where he saves face and can kind of come back and not fire missiles at Guam?
Well, I think Secretary Rex Tillerson is trying that as well. I think that actually the administration is talking with one voice. I don't think that they're necessarily thinking that President Trump's off on one place, Mattis on another, and Tillerson. I actually think they're saying variations on a theme from 3 different people, and that Tillerson is the one from the State Department saying, you know, there is a way for you to get right with us, and you could choose that, but we're not going to mollycoddle you. We are better parents. Interesting, though, about rational theory is somebody like Gaddafi. So Gaddafi saw what happened to Saddam Hussein and was like, okay, here, Condi Rice, please take my nuclear weapons. And then I think, you know, there are other players. Iran chose a different path, and they have a different situation. But this one is, I think, different, and that their problem is that they're a child that is now a threat to innocent people into the United States. So we can't be a good parent to them. We have to protect ourselves.
Yeah, I think by protecting ourselves is we have to find the on-ramp for them to save face and return back into their dark existence, because it's a dark world they live in, and it'll be a permanently dark world for those people, but it's the only way they think they can survive.
We also need to get the other parent to step up, though.
Yeah,
right? I mean, and that's the thing. China is, I mean, it's almost cliche now, but China is the key here. And if they're if they were part of the problem that helped get us to this place, then it's time they step up and do their part.
Last word, Kimberly, what do you think the prospects are of China really coming to save this thing from disaster?
Strong.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I think they have no choice now but to get seriously involved and not just in a rhetorical way.
All right. Well, the ball's in China's court. Up next, President Trump confronting Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell over the failure to pass a health care bill. Ed Henry with the inside story of a tense phone conversation between the 2 men. Up next.
President Trump is stepping up his criticism of Mitch McConnell, taking several digs at the Senate Majority Leader today. Our chief national correspondent, Ed Henry, is tracking all the latest developments from the White House. Ed, I got your title right this time, so give it to us straight.
Boo. No more booing, Greg.
So mean.
In remarks at his golf club today, President Trump was very direct and blunt in saying that he's disappointed in the performance of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, saying that a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare should have been on his desk week one, maybe even day one of his new administration. And in a private phone call with McConnell yesterday, the president was even harsher, not just going after him about his performance as Majority Leader, but very upset about a speech McConnell gave earlier this week in Kentucky at a Rotary Club, where McConnell basically said that because of the president's lack of political experience, he's suffering from excessive expectations about exactly what Congress can do with his agenda. Yesterday and today, the president has also fired off a series of tweets going after McConnell directly, including one this afternoon in which he said, quote, "Mitch, get back to work and put repeal and replace, tax reform and cuts, and a great infrastructure bill on my desk for signing. You can do it." A couple of hours later, reporters pressed the president on comments by Sean Hannity and other conservatives that if McConnell can't get the job done, maybe he should simply step aside and resign as leader.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he doesn't get repeal and replace done, and if he doesn't get taxes done, meaning cuts and reform, and if he doesn't get a very easy one to get done, infrastructure, if he doesn't get them done, then you can ask me that question.
But the bottom line on the president raising the temperature on all of this is that he's stuck with McConnell, at least for now, in terms of shepherding his legislative agenda. And if Special Counsel Robert Mueller continues to turn up the heat on that Russia investigation, the president is going to need as many allies as he can get on the Hill. And Dana, you heard more booing from Greg there. I simply don't care, because I know viewers listen closely to my reports in order to stay woke.
Very good, Ed. We love having you. Thank you so much. We're going to take it around the table now. Kimberly, I'll start with you. You know, remember I used to say addition is better than subtraction?
I always liked it.
Yes, and public criticism is never necessarily good. But I also think that this was actually pretty mild from Mitch McConnell. I think that if you read if you see how Mitch McConnell said it versus how the media reports it, it got all, bustled up.
Yeah, blown out of proportion, and yeah, it escalated pretty quickly, like a hot air balloon. But first of all, we know that, I think it got taken out of proportion in terms of what Mitch McConnell was saying. But as it relates to the president, he doesn't like anything like that of any nature. Meaning, if you're going to try and poke at him a little bit, he's going to punch hard back at you. He doesn't tolerate it well, and he has no time for it. He has no bid for it. So it's not helpful in any regard. What I would have liked to see is all this effort put into health care.
Yeah.
And to getting immigration reform and tax reform and all the things that we need, to get done. So it doesn't seem like that working relationship is working so well.
I think it's probably not that bad, but Jesse, Mitch McConnell does need President Trump's help. In order to get tax reform done, and actually, on tax reform, unlike with health care reform, they already have a plan. The president's going to be out there in blue states where they have, red states where they have blue governors, so that they'll try to press them, and they actually have a communications plan to see it through.
Yeah, they both need each other. I like how Trump is treating McConnell like a boss treats an employee. He's like, hey, Mitch, get those reports on my desk at 5 or else you're fired. I mean, it's unbelievable. But you understand why the president expected Obamacare to be repealed and replaced, because the Republicans promised for years to repeal and replace Obamacare. The president expected McConnell to do his job. He didn't do his job, and now he may be out of a job. President Clinton...
He's going to be out of a job.
Well, listen, he might not have that leadership anymore if there's, people rising up. And that was a threat. I think the president just delivered a strong one. So when Bill Clinton was president, in the second term, he didn't have either houses, and he signed bills. President Bush had a divided House and Senate. He signed big bills.
But you know why?
Obama had both houses. He signed bills immediately. He can't even get a bill on his desk. So it's sad, exclamation point, sad.
Oh my God.
But I understand what President Trump is doing. He's kind of running against Congress. He's running against Republicans. He's running against the swamp. When the swamp delivers, he'll claim credit. When the swamp doesn't, he'll try to get as far away from that stench and point his finger. So it's smart politically.
All right, Mo, all of this is happening while the Democrats actually are losing ground and they haven't really been able to bounce back after November. So as bad as the Republicans might look today on a day of infighting, the Democrats feeling worse?
No, I think there are a lot of Democrats right now that are kind of quietly cheering the president on in this fight, right? The more this Senate looks like it isn't doing anything, and the more the president of the United States, the better it is for Democrats who are running in 2018. So there is a little bit of productivity going on here. But I will say I agree completely with Jesse's point. This is exactly politically what Donald Trump wants. This is not a partisan fight the way it used to be, right? Careful.
Make a lot of sense.
It's probably the last time I'm going to say I agree with you. Right, but he's running against the system, and that is Democrat and Republican. It is the judiciary, the media, and the Congress.
Well, I do think that one thing, that the system of checks and balances continues to work. But people thought the Republic was going to fall apart, but guess what? The courts still get a say, and the Congress still gets a say, and the president gets mad, and that's just like, that's normal.
Yeah, and by the way, how is this... how is this a big story? We already understand Donald Trump for his conversational bluntness and the fact that he basically says what he thinks, and exactly what he said is what his voters think. So he's basically reflecting he's not changed. He's never going to change. And him and McConnell, they are like a married couple. They bicker. One is loud, the other one rolls her eyes, but they stick together. And I don't think,
so like you said, the honeymooners.
They're like the honeymooners. And I don't think Mitch minds. I think they need each other. And also I do think it was a bit overblown. I think Mitch was just answering a question.
Right.
And that was that.
Also, who leaked the contents of the phone call? I bet I could figure it out.
Oh, tweet it.
No, it's okay. I mean, the president wanted to get back on the stage. He is back on the stage today in a very big way, Kimberly. I liked it that he talked to the press today. I've been wanting him to do a press conference.
I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
That's why he should do more of it.
No, I totally agree. I mean, he really, makes the case best for himself. And when he's out there, he's able to connect with people like he does at his rallies and, feeds them a little bit.
He's better when he's sitting down. I don't know what that is.
Is that what you decided?
Yes.
Maybe perhaps he's a little bit more measured.
Yes, he sits there very comfortable. He's not in a rush.
That's interesting. An interesting observation. All right.
And I have pink eye, and I observed that.
I know, but you're going to be okay. Just don't touch anyone.
Thank God you're here and totally creeping me out right now.
All right, when we return, chilling new details emerge after a recently foiled ISIS terror plot to take down a plane. Are the terrorists getting smarter about circumventing national security, our national security? Greg has that. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned.
So as we fret over North Korea, we miss a story way scarier. ISIS planned to bomb a jetliner in Australia in a fairly sophisticated plot. Terrorists got plastic explosives sent via airmail into luggage, they think, before the baggage was abandoned prior to airport security. Apparently, this was a sophisticated device shipped from Turkey through security, probably by air cargo. Authorities discovered the plot from a tip weeks later, after. To summarize in one word, yikes. This is the real battle. As we wipe out ISIS and terror hotbeds, they're now fanning out. All it takes is one free agent, a dirty bomb, and 9/11 will look like a bonfire. This latest plot shows that these fiends are indeed still plotting. So as ISIS handbooks teach this stuff to recruits, what's our move? The arrested plotters are siblings recruited by another brother in ISIS, meaning terrorism is an intimate bunch, and we should look at them all. It's life or death. Said it before, radical Islam marries terror to new technology. They now have refined wares, and they learn fast. Even though they failed here, we don't know why, they will adjust and keep at it. We must do the same. We always knew plastic explosives were coming. We better make sure we can detect them, even in air cargo. So I'm thinking, on September 10th, 2001, you could probably find a ton of stories on North Korea, but few on bin Laden. A lot's changed since then. 16 years ago, it was a jet and a box cutter. But now we got drones, biotech, plastics. So if you're sleepless tonight over North Korea, you're doing it wrong. This should keep you up instead. After all, we can find North Korea on a map. Dana, you're a political person. In 2000, the election, how much was Al-Qaeda mentioned?
I always find this amazing. In that entire campaign, neither Al Gore or George Bush were ever asked a question about Al-Qaeda. Interestingly, on September 10th, 2001, the White House communications team was there late at night, till 10 p.m. And they're like, big crisis. There's going to be a front page story in the New York Times the next day. They're really worried about it. And the topic was the Cheney Energy Task Force.
Right.
Right. Like something totally non-consequential to the bigger picture. As ISIS loses territory, their online empire is growing. And so also with plastics and 3D printing, what I think we should do is I think President Trump should oversee an intel surge, because we need a lot more people out there with eyes and ears and informing on people like the brothers.
Yeah, this is from the Wall Street Journal. A lot of this information came from Ahmed S. Yela, who's an adjunct professor at George Mason University. Said the bomb materials evaded all security measures via air cargo. Mo, this is kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mo, this is scary. You only hear that in Three Stooges.
No, it is. I mean, and the fact that the whole notion of nation states, has completely eroded.
That's why I always think that North Korea is rational compared to this.
And with the rapidly changing technology that all of us are struggling to keep up with, right? I mean, it all adds to the what's scary. I think there are a couple of things we ought to do, right? I agree with Dana, invest heavily in intelligence. There's an economic component, both putting economic pressure on those countries that are giving safe haven, but also helping to change the economic dynamic that's helping to drive some people, right? That's creating some of the despair. Third, I think there's obviously a military component to this that we need to pursue, and there's a diplomatic component. We need to engage the Islamic countries, right?
They have to play a big role. The hijackers of 9/11, they weren't poor.
Nope.
No, there isn't. But a lot of the young people who are being drawn are people who do feel a tremendous amount of despair. And I'm not saying
I think you're talking about a moral poverty.
Right, moral and an economic poverty. I mean, absolutely.
You can have a great job and still want to kill everybody to get 72 virgins. That's moral poverty, in my view, I guess.
My point is, all of these things, these are all different pieces to a broader puzzle. There is no singular answer here.
Right. What do you think, Kim?
You know, I think that, it's a multifaceted approach that's going to be successful against this, unending battle against terror and jihad. And you see that they are constantly trying to innovate and, upgrade, new application available. That's what they're doing. And they want to outsmart us, and they're really tireless in terms of, the efforts that they're making to be able to achieve success. It is the only thing occupying their thoughts and their attention. So when you hear stories like this, it makes sense. And they're trying to outthink, like they were amongst the first, the jihadists and ISIS and with the caliphate, trying to use some of these encrypted messaging systems like Signal and WhatsApp and Telegraph to be able to avoid detection. And that's why our intelligence, as Dana points out, has to be even more strong and commendable and aggressive in terms of being able to get the information, to anticipate, and also to find out the connections, the relationships, and sort of the terror web.
Yeah, Jesse, that's the weird thing. It's like when in the Wall Street Journal they were talking about how these were brothers recruited by another brother in ISIS. So that you get criticized if you talk about looking at family.
Yeah,
but it's family in this case.
Yeah, these brothers are obviously evil men. ISIS is like a army of rats, and they're always trying to burrow into your home, going into a different crevice or chewing through plaster. And then, the civilized world is just trying to plug holes and just trying to play defense around the perimeter. That can only work for a certain amount of time. So you have to think creatively. You have to anticipate what they're going to do next. President Trump did that with the travel ban. President Obama used certain tools like drones. He was focused more on rhetoric. President Trump, very creative. You had black sites, you had Gitmo, you had, of course, interrogation. So right now we still need to be thinking one step ahead, because you're right. You're not going to win this just by putting bullets in heads, although Trump is doing that pretty effectively in Syria right now. And that's why they're kind of dissipating and scrambling and coming up with these other crazy ideas. But you're going to have to, like the president said in Saudi Arabia, drive them out, not just physically, drive out the ideology. The ideology, radical Islam, is motivated by death. And when you take that motivation away, you can crush it. But until you enlist the rest of the Muslim society, you're not going to win it.
Keep them busy.
Keep partners.
The pressure on.
Exactly.
Make them always be worried that they're about to get caught.
This is not good. It's not if, it's when.
Absolutely.
For the next one. Ahead, 4 decades after the arrest of Son of Sam serial killer, TV networks are giving airtime to David Berkowitz. Should they? The debate is next.
on the ground. I stay under glass. I look through.
The serial killer known as Son of Sam terrorized New York City, murdering 6 people in a string of nighttime shootings before he was arrested 40 years ago today. And now, in a rare interview from behind bars, David Berkowitz opens up about his terrifying killing spree.
People never understand where I came from, no matter how much I try to explain it. They wouldn't understand what it was to walk in darkness. I've been locked up since the time of my arrest of just under 40 years.
You just turned 64.
Yeah, I just turned 64, yeah.
What would you tell 23-year-old David Berkowitz today?
Turn around before it's too late, because destruction is coming, you know. And as far as I'm concerned, that was not me. That was not me. That name, I hate that name. I despise that name.
Which name?
That moniker, Son of Sam. That was a demon.
In light of this new sit-down, should media organizations give airtime to serial killers, Greg? You're shaking furiously over there.
We just raised this question about playing the tape so we could play the tape. Let's be honest about that. We just did what we just are questioning not to do. Whether it's ISIS, teenage suicide, mass shootings, we know that actions are influenced by the spotlight, which creates exposure. There's an amazing study, and you read this too. It was in Robert Cialdini's book, Influence. After a well-publicized suicide in a community, there's a dramatic increase in single-person auto crashes and plane crashes. The suicide, when publicized, is contagious. People think about these things. And whenever you expose a certain kind of thing that creates notoriety or attention, especially to young people, like mass shootings, you will get replication. And you know how I feel about this. He may be contrite, but he doesn't deserve the spotlight.
All right, Dana.
Well, that was such a weird thing in that book. I remember just thinking, like, how does that actually happen? But
It's like threefold increases in plane crashes. Wow.
And there was also recently that Netflix documentary called 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
I think I didn't actually see it, but it was about suicides. And there's this debate, like, is it better to talk about it? Or if you're talking about it, does it actually lead to more, especially with younger people? The interesting thing for me in this one is that, is there a place for redemption? And I think that the Lord would say yes. So I guess that the media talking about it, if it helps prevent somebody from going down that path, perhaps. But I would be curious from your standpoint, from law enforcement, do you think this makes a difference or makes it worse or better?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have mixed feelings and emotion on it, because I think, you know, it's important to identify and point it out and call it what it is. And so obviously there's going to be public attention and curiosity riveted towards this. This was a huge, you know, crime story and everything at the time. In fact, Ronan's godfather's dad, Detective Joe Coffey, was the one on this case that took him down, got us his soul. And so you see a guy like this who has committed horrific crimes. Yes, of course you don't want anyone else to try to, like, be encouraged by this or to put it out there, like you said, like the, you know, the shows and the movies and stuff about teen suicides and seeing a spike. But I think the truth and getting the news and the story out there, I do think that it is important, and it's worthwhile.
There's an old saying in television, if it bleeds, it leads. And I think, you know, sex sells, but death and destruction sells really well, too. And a sit-down with a serial killer is ratings gold. I understand your point. You don't want to glamorize these maniacs because it could have consequences for the rest of society. But there is a public service, I think. You know how we show every year on this network the planes going into the World Trade Center towers? We do it once a year out of respect. But it's also to remind the American public the enemy that we face and what we're fighting for. Charles Manson sat down in front of cameras. And to a certain extent, that generation in the 60s, that was a wake-up call to see him and to see what he did and why he did that. Bin Laden, if he had been captured alive, and network bookers would be burning up the phones at the Pentagon looking for that interview. Because in a way, I think the American public once in a while, not all the time, but once in a while, needs to see the face of evil. And needs to look evil in the eyes. Because without evil, you don't have good. You need that juxtaposition. So once in a while, You got to recognize evil for what it is so you understand who you are as a civilized society.
There's also a big difference between something like this, I think, that is a retrospective 40 years later. It's going to be more holistic, right? They're also sitting down with some of the victims. Then when you see a mad media rush to covering these types of incidents in real time, right? And when they're glorifying, the suspect or the recently caught, culprit in real time, oftentimes at the expense of the faces of the victims, right? That's a very different, I think that speaks much more to your concerns, Greg. I'm also mixed emotions on this particular special, but I do like the fact that they're going to be sitting down with the victims, and it does raise the question.
Yeah, it's true, and perhaps to study and to get some insight into the criminal mind and how.
He was a successful rapper before shooting to fame as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and later starring in such blockbusters as Independence Day and Men in Black. But now Hollywood A-lister Will Smith may be gearing up for his biggest role yet. Take a look.
Have you ever been asked, has there ever been a conversation, has anyone said to you, would you play Barack Obama in a movie? Someone must have called you about it.
Yes.
Yeah? Is that
I
something
talked to Barack about it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He told me that he felt confident that I had the ears for the role.
Well, there you have it.
Oh, my goodness.
Greg, you feeling it?
I think that President Obama should play Will Smith playing Obama. I think that would be a good twist. But I want to know who's going to play Obama as a child in Kenya. That's a joke, America. Or is it? We'll be right back.
We were doing so well for about 5 minutes.
It was a joke. We can all laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
And I can laugh with you.
I think it'd be a good choice. The one thing I just cannot, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me when he calls him Barack by his first name. I mean, he's the president, always and forever.
They're buddies.
I don't care.
I was just telling Donald that the other day. I don't like it.
I bet Jesse was.
When he calls you Greg.
Jesse, so presuming the movie goes all the way through the end of the administration, who plays Trump?
Who plays Trump? I want to know who plays Reverend Wright.
Ooh.
Cedric the Entertainer.
Who plays Bill Ayers?
Or something like that.
Win.
How does Will Smith get into character? Does he practice bowing in the mirror? Is that what he does?
Wow.
I think the Obama movie would be very similar to his presidency.
Gosh, here we
The
go.
press would love it, and it would bomb at the box office. And then he could just blame Bush.
That's just...
Right? He would blame Bush.
Something like this, you got to go in and last with very little time.
I mean, do we have to buy more movie tickets for this guy?
Otherwise, it's the Jesse
And then we spend enough money on this.
Save me here, Kimberly.
What can we do to save you from the pink coat over there? So listen, I think they're friends. I think he knows him. He would probably play him quite well. I'm sure that, and he's also a very good actor. So
Who would play Michelle Obama? That's a great, everybody would want that role.
The real president.
Beyonce.
Yeah, good choice.
Think?
Well
I
said.
don't know.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't think she would, disapprove.
Who would play Joe Biden?
Adam Sandler. Not a stretch.
Great.
What do you think about it, Mo?
I'm a big fan. I think Will Smith is a great actor.
Yeah, really
I think he,
Do you think they should make the movie now or wait?
Michelle Obama said that, if she had her druthers, it would be either Will Smith or Denzel Washington, right?
I think Jamie Foxx would have been.
Also, maybe
I think Jamie Foxx would also
Kerry Washington would be good as Michelle Obama. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd wait a little while, though.
Yeah, let's wait.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like they're making it, but
Yeah, they should.
yeah, they should wait a little while.
Okay, Will Smith's best movie. I have my answer.
Best movie.
Bad Boys.
Smith. Oh, yeah.
I love that with Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, where is Martin? We got to bring back Martin.
Cutest.
All right.
What's so funny? You guys don't like Martin?
All right, one more thing is up next.
Time now for one more thing. I'll go first. So, brushed with death in Poland. Check out this crazy video. This car's driving, train tracks, here they come. Whoa!
Oh.
Ow.
Just missed the train.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
basically what happened was, you know what? They fined the driver after almost dying. There it is. Just missed it.
What is wrong
In
with
Poland, this happened. Crazy. You guys got to be careful.
Where do you find things like this?
The producers.
Let's be honest.
Well, come on. I have other things to do. Wow. Reverse shot.
I mean, versus do your job.
Oh, thanks, Kimberly. Oh, we're going to kill your one more thing. Gutfeld.
All right, I quickly will plug my podcast. It's at foxnewspodcast.com. It's an interview with Noam Dworkin. He's a great guy. He owns the Comedy Cellar, legendary comedy club. And we talk about politics, conservatives, and comedy in the era of Trump. It's really good. It's only like 25 minutes. You won't miss it. All right. Greg's wishes do come true 40 years later. So I'm standing out, you know, where I live, and this happens. Take a look at this. There's a guy with a hand truck, and a box falls off his hand truck filled with Pop Rocks and popcorn. Now, if I was 10 years old, this would have been like a dream come true, like that scene in Animal House where the woman flies through the window and the kid says, "Thank you, God." It was insane, but I'm 52. So anyway, I'm yelling at the dude with the hand truck. But, of course, everybody has earbuds in, so he just walked. He walked to the hand truck, left this giant box. I ran out into the street, and I grabbed it, and I took it back, and I held on to it. And I'm going, look at all this Pop Rocks. And then I look at, this is the strangest story ever. I look at the address. I look at the address, and it belongs to a restaurant of a guy that I'm meeting in 10 minutes.
What?
It is just the most insane story ever. It's an ice cream place called Oddfellows, and I'm meeting him about a boiler.
Wow. That story really ended well.
Oh, my God. More plumbing and
Are they going to put the Pop Rocks in the boiler?
I think, no, it's a great ice cream store. It's on a Spring and Lafayette in Soho.
You put Pop Rocks in the ice cream?
Yes, you can.
And why didn't you bring the Pop Rocks in?
I didn't even steal one bag. It was huge.
I love Pop Rocks.
And the chef came. The chef came and.
Do you give them to your girls? Would you like?
Is that a great story, America?
Yeah, they're very healthy for you, aren't they?
But I guess dreams do come true. 40 years ago that happened.
Why don't you get in a bathtub with a bunch of Coca-Cola and some Pop Rocks and fruit?
Why haven't I done it lately, you mean?
Wow.
All right. Dana, let me guess. It's about a dog.
It is about a dog because a couple things. It's National Spoil Your Dog Day. That's actually every day at our house. Took Jasper with us to lunch today. There he is, sitting with us. Had a little update. Remember I showed you last week he had the collar on because I found the melanoma on his, or the spot on his lip. That was melanoma. He had to have a little surgery to make sure that they got clear margins, and we had to wait all week for the results. And Peter called me tonight and said, free and clear.
Great.
All right.
That's a good update.
Now Greg needs a good report.
Well, I have pink eye, but that's...
No, for the mole, remember, you think it might be precancerous.
Oh, great. Thanks for bringing that up. Boy, this is...
Wow. Divulging medical information live on the air.
My life.
Kimberly Guilfoyle, everybody.
My life.
No, because I encouraged him to get checked, did I not? I may have saved your life just so you could annoy me further. I love this.
I'm going on Monday, okay?
All right. Who's into cats?
Me?
I am.
I'll take a cat.
I love the musical.
Perfect. It's been called a catastrophe. I don't have a graphic. So a kid ran out into the field of last night's Royals versus Cardinals game at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and the feisty little thing sprinted onto the field with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 6th inning, delaying the game briefly. A member of the Cardinals grounds crew ran out to grab the stray and flinched several times, scared of a cat, as the animal tried to bite and scratch him, but he doesn't have rabies, so it's okay. So I wanted to give you that important medical update. Well, what do you mean? They called him Rally Cat. Isn't that cute?
When I was a kid, we were all scared of rabies.
Cat.
Didn't you think you could get rabies from everything?
Yeah, rabies.
Oh, next pitch was a grand slam. This is true.
That's right.
I think it was Good Luck Cat.
All right, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a rant. So, you know, I'm a former communications director, spokesman for the Democratic National Committee.
Sorry to hear that.
And even I agree that some of the criticism of the DNC in the last elections are legit. But some things are ridiculous. Folks from a group that was founded by Bernie Sanders are accusing the DNC of being arrogant and pompous. Why? Over donuts. What do you mean? See, last month, this group, Our Revolution, protested outside the DNC, and DNC staffers came out and offered them donuts and water. Nice, right?
Yeah.
Not according to Nina Turner, the group's president, who wrote an email saying it was condescending and that the DNC was trying to seduce them with donuts and water.
Your easy date.
Wow, there's a hole in that theory.
Depends on the donut.
Look,
Depends.
all right.
I want us all to be nicer on a human level, like
Yes.
the DNC was.
So
here.
do we.
Sometimes a donut is just a donut.
Say your DVRs, never miss an episode of The 5. Hannity is up next.